Hello, this is Shoyan, a Japanese carpenter. Today, I'd like to make a ladder for a loft. First, measure the slope of the ladder at the site. I'll do the allocation later, so I will only decide the slope and length this time. This is not a stair, it's a ladder. Actually, there's no standard measurement about the angle. I decided with a feeling of this much to not get in the way of the room. I heard that it is difficult to climb even if the angle is loose. I've been a carpenter for a long time, but it's my first time to make a loft ladder. Next, cut the timber for the stringers roughly. I will make 2 sets of ladders this time. The material is of course Japanese cypress. Also, there are 4 stringers. I will make 1 long material for extra while keeping it long. I don't know what will happen on the way, so it's not a spare, but I'll cut while keeping the length. I would like to finish the dimensions to about 45mm by 95mm. Also, cut the timber for the rung roughly. I'll cut it short because it's easier to plane the rung later and the knots can be removed. Next, plane it by a planer. The material this time is relatively short, so it's very easy to cut compared to the deck board of the wooden deck that was cut last time. I don't know well why planers are called planers, but a planer is a machine that cuts the right angled material straight and finishes it to the same size no matter how many pieces are cut. Now, I'd like to allocate the number of steps on the rung to a model. If the height of the rung is low, the top of the foot will hit the next rung because there is no slope. So make it much higher than stairs. I think it's a little high for small children, but it's dangerous, so I don't want small children to climb. I'll copy the slope of the ladder with a gradient ruler. And I'll write it according to the number of steps and complete the model. I'll write the number so as not to make a mistake in the number of steps. Next, process the stringers. First, I'd like to decide on 2 pairs of partners and use the top side on the outside of the ladder. If you look from the center of the room, you can see the outside of the ladder well, so I will do so. Then, I'll draw the marking by using model that I made earlier. Draw the marking of 4 stringers at once. I'd like to insert the rung with the tenon. Because they have similar dimensions, I'll make shoulder at both sides. Okay, now the marking of stringers is finished. I will carve the rung part. I will do nomiuchi a little smaller than the marking of the hole. Drill the whole portion. Finish the hole with a chisel. It's a small hole, but it takes a lot of time. Because I'm making 2 sets at the same time, it takes 3 to 4 minutes for each hole, so it takes about an hour and a half in total. Now the hole is carved. Since the hole was carved, I'll cut off the part that hangs on the beam. Although it's not shown in the video, make a large dowel hole in the upper part of the notch. And attach a dowel to the beam and fix it with it so that the ladder doesn't move. Cut both ends. Now stringer is finished. Next, do our marking of rung. Make the outer width of the ladder 500 millimeters. Decide the cutting line of the rung. When I do this, first draw a marking on two of same lengths. Then put them on both sides and measure the right angle. If I measure the right angle by square scale from one side and connect both ends, they will all be the same length at once. Draw a marking of Gobu's shoulder of tenons. If I place them neatly side by side on the straight timber, I can draw a marking to them all at once. It's relatively easy. I will cut out the shoulder of the tenon on both ends. Basically, when I cut a shoulder, I mean a tenon, I'll cut it by crosscut sawing first. If I cut it by rip sawing first, there is a possibility that I overcut. But if it's crosscut sawing, the gaps won't happen even if I overcut it. If I overcut it by rip sawing, the vestige of the sawing can be seen from the front. So the best basic way is, cut it by crosscut sawing first, and the portion drops after cutting by rip sawing. Chamfer the tenon largely to assemble it easier. Process the rung to prevent slipping. Cut out an oval groove to prevent slipping, just like when I install the stairs. Well, I only have this one. Process the stringers to serve as a handrail. I'll just cut out a 21mm groove, because there is no place to grip. Even if you grip a rung when climbing, I think it will slip. If there are grooves on the stringers on both sides, it can grip and also be used as a handrail. Now finish it by super surfacers. This is my old toy that has been around for a long time, but it can still be used. Chamfer is a stringer. I will chamfer the corners larger that have been cut off grooves and used as handrails to make them easier to grip. Of course, also chamfer the inside of the groove. I'm deciding the order of the rung. There are some knots on the stepboard. I think it will not be noticeable, so I will bring it to the bottom. Next, assemble it. Do kigoroshi a little bit and stand it in order. This time, I'd like to assemble by driving 2 large screws from both sides with a plug. So I don't use glue. I'm going to assemble with only screws. Make a hole for plugs on both sides. I often use chalk to draw a marking of decorative material. Chalk is relatively convenient and can be removed by wiping it with water. Also, it can be removed cleanly with an eraser. If it's a pencil, a black marking will remain, so I think chalk is useful. Put a glue and fill it with a plug to finish it. Plug also has a direction of grain, driving so that the straight grain is aligned with the direction of the stringer's straight grain when the grain is at a right angle. It feels very strange. Now I completed one set. I realized when I made it that this loft ladder is quite annoying. I made 2 sets at the same time, so it's natural that it takes time, but it took about 10 hours. But it was completed beautifully. I can grip the handrail part firmly. I think it's a cool finish. Now I've completed the loft ladder made from Japanese cypress. It's so beautiful. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.